Hello everyone, welcome to Edge Time. Today we've got ourselves a big knife to take apart, maintain, put back together. This is the disassembly for the Cold Steel Espada XL, and this is a rather large knife. I'm not even sure if it is fitting inside the entire screen right now, but a big knife does not necessarily mean it is difficult to maintain. So let's get right into it. First, we'll check out the hardware, see what we've got. The pivot looks to be rather large. Oh, it is not a 15. Looks like that is a T10, so that's pretty nice. Here's our T8, but it looks like these guys are all going to be T6. Yep. So all the clip screws, all the body screws are all going to be T6. So, as you all know, I like to do the clip first, so let's get right into it. Okay, now I'm going to work my way up the spine of the knife towards the front. I'm going to see if I can get these out on both sides. That would be kind of nice. Yep. These are all quite loose. This is a blade that was lent to me by a friend who heard that I was starting a YouTube channel and he wanted to give me some material to work with, so thank you to my friend who lent me these. I say these, he lent me multiple knives and I will be making videos about those shortly. Alright, let's get this pivot out. This should just lift off here. Yep, it's just not one to go over the pins. There we go, perfect. Very nice. Even a huge knife like this relies on such a simple and efficient mechanism. So I love cold steel knives. They are so simple, so easy to work on. It's interesting. It's a very, very thin Teflon washer. And that one is brass on that side. Was one stuck to this? Okay, that makes me feel better. One was stuck to this side. Okay. That is a large blade. That is, the blade alone is larger than even some of my biggest knives. So yeah, this is a big knife. Set that off to the side. Get this thing the rest of the way taken apart. The triad lock is a super simple lock to maintain. I love this lock. It is pretty much the strongest lock in existence at this point. I would throw it up against anything. It's an amazing lock. Wow, that is a tiny little pin. Oh, yeah, that's just the pin that holds that in place. It doesn't need to be big. All right. I'm not even going to worry about taking the screw sets out. There we go. The Cold Steel Espada XL, completely and thoroughly disassembled. I'm going to go ahead and clean this. I've not had this knife apart yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run and grab a wet paper towel real fast just to get it wiped off, and then I'll go through with alcohol wipes. So, back in a second. Alright, so I've got a moist paper towel just to get the bigger debris and dirt out of the inside of this. This knife was obviously used, which is a good thing. We should be using our knives. They're not just showpieces. Well, some of them are, but... Good enough for that. Feel free to skip through this part if you don't want to watch me painstakingly wipe down every single part of this knife. Ooh, that's aluminum. I like that. I thought that was fiberglass reinforced nylon or something. That's nice. I'm not going to worry about taking the wave opener off here just because there's no real wave opener slash thumb disc, that is, just because there's no real point. It's not a moving part and it's not going to really affect the knife's action. And those are, in my mind, kind of notoriously difficult to get off there, at least on the knives that I own, so I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm mostly done doing just a water wipe off, and then I'm going to wipe everything down with alcohol. Just little alcohol wipes, and that'll just strip everything off, and I can start over with fresh oil and hopefully get this thing back to a nice smooth action. Probably hear the motorcycles outside. I live on a busy road, so there's going to be traffic noises at any given time. Get the rest of that out with I will get it out with this cold steel click and cut blade. That's about perfect to get in there. There we go. That's much better. Alright. Just wipe these pins off real fast. This is not crucial because these are not moving parts here. The main parts that you want to get really nice and clean are the ones where there's going to be constant friction. So that's what I've mostly done here. Now I'm just going to give it a quick wipe down with alcohol just to get any remaining dirt or debris off. Start with the blade, try to get maybe a little bit of the oxidation and stuff off. I'm not too concerned about it. This is obviously a working knife, so it's never going to be absolutely perfect. I mean, it could. It would just take more work than I need to put in right now. So. And there's nothing wrong with the knife in this condition. Yeah, it's got a little bit of rust on it, but that's not going to affect the operation of the knife. Especially when it's this big, it has plenty of momentum to carry it open. If a little knife was this rusty, it might have a little more difficulty opening, but it shouldn't affect this knife whatsoever. And I've wiped all of the big rust off, so this is just a rust stain now. This does not have dimension to it. It's flat there on the blade. So it's not actually impeding the action whatsoever. Alright, get a fresh alcohol wipe here. These little alcohol wipes from Walmart are one of the most useful things you can have for knife maintenance. They're just quick, easy to use, and alcohol can strip a lot off of a blade, so that's good. Definitely want to get these bronze washers because this is what the knife is riding on, so these kind of have to be good and clean. Try to get some of the dust off of my work table here. I think this is pretty much good for this knife. I don't need to go much more into detail here. I've gotten the guts cleaned out. It should be fully operational again at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and begin the reassembly process at this point. Alright, so reassembling the Espada XL. If you've been skipping through to this point, this is where you're going to want to stop, because this is where things get interesting again. This should not be difficult whatsoever. I've done the triad lock a handful of times, and by a handful I mean a lot. So it is not a difficult lock for me to do. I would say the hardest lock to put back together is a button lock. Those are a pain. And axis locks aren't great either. But, I mean, there are very few knives that are truly very difficult to put back together. Strangely enough, OTF knives are very easy to put back together. they are dead simple. And if fear of having to maintain it is one reason that you're not getting an OTF knife, I would say you don't have to worry about that. Now, like if you're wanting to get like a Microtech and it uses a proprietary bit, yeah, that might be a bit of a concern. But like for my Cobra Tech OTF, it uses all T8 Torx screws, and this thing is a breeze to take apart and put back together. And yeah, so yeah, OTFs are super easy to maintain. Let's see here. Start building our sandwich again. Let's see, since everything came apart so nicely, what I think I'll do is I'll actually build this thing from this side up. So I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in on this. This is super nice. As opposed to having individual spacer posts, this is all one big backspacer, and every single one of these holes is threaded. This is very interesting because there's actually two different threaded holes here. My guess would be that maybe this backspacer can be used with two different models of Espada, potentially, or maybe this is two different settings here. I'm not actually sure how this is supposed to work, but as you can see, there's two different threaded holes for each single hole here. So I'm just going to use the ones that it was in originally, which is these. I'll actually have to look that up and see how that works, because I've never seen anything like that before. So let's start with the back here. Just give the head of each of these screws a little bit of a wipe off as I put it in. Not super critical. The main reason I wanted to really get this thing cleaned up was for the action, just because the action had it was still okay. It had just gotten a little bit gunked up, so I just wanted to see just how smooth this thing could be if I really got it slicked up really good. So, and I don't think it's going to disappoint, especially with these nice phosphor bronze washers. I may occasionally call these brass washers on whatever knife I'm working on. They are not. They are phosphor bronze, and that is the standard of the knife industry. As far as oh, wait a minute, what am I doing here? I have to actually slip this liner in first before I do this. I don't have to take this back off, but yeah, that's fine. Let's get this screw on in here. Alright, so now I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and cinch these down just to regular tightness. You don't want to over torque any screw just because there's no point. Bad things will happen, they'll strip out, etc. Yeah, just like be careful when tightening down, especially these little tiny T6 torque screws. They can be a pain sometimes. Alright. So it looks like, no, this is just another one of those things. Yeah, because this hole is threaded, this hole's not. It is weird seeing all these holes in this. Like I said, I will have to look this up and see how that's supposed to work. It's just weird. Anyway, let's get this thing the rest of the way back together. Get these, well, this is interesting too. These are grooved on one side. And it looks like the side that is grooved is maybe like half a millimeter longer. This is weird. Very strange. Okay. They went in there just fine, so I'm just going to do it like this, and it should be okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's get our sandwich built up here. Okay, so the way this was Teflon was against the blade. I'm going to clean off these Teflon washers a little bit better since they Teflon washers attract dirt like crazy. That's why I'm not a huge fan of them in knives. And I have seen this both Teflon and bronze washer combination so much, especially on cold steels. I have seen it on other knives as well. My new Spartan Aster over here has it as well. I don't know why companies do that. I don't know why they don't just do bronze, but I don't think it matters, but it's just weird. Alright. So let's go ahead and get the sandwich built back up here. We'll start with this bronze washer, get a little bit of oil down there where it's going to go. Just a couple drops. And then we'll put on one Teflon washer, a couple of drops of oil on this washer first. Don't want to put too much oil in here because then it'll just attract dirt and nobody wants that. Before we put the blade back in, this is usually a little bit finicky, but it's not terrible. Just have to know what you're doing, getting the lock all put back together. There we go. That's got tension. That was super easy. That's nice. I just lost my pivot there, which is fine. Boop. Alright, so now I'm going to hold pressure against the pivot with my index finger, and then get the blade here, push up on the lock bar, slide the blade down, and into place. Perfect. Okay, now everything is under tension and holding itself together, so I don't even have to hold pressure against the pivot anymore. We're going to go ahead and put our... I actually don't know if I put any oil on that Teflon washer, which it's not a huge deal. Oil is going to work its way in there, but I just want to see if I did or not. Nope, I didn't. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit on there just to be safe. Probably doesn't need it, but it will help in the long run. There we go. Get our second Teflon washer on there, and then our second bronze washer, and then a little bit more oil on here. Alright, and then we will go ahead and put on our second liner. Make sure there's no other parts laying around here. And everything looks good to me. Yeah. Alright, we'll go ahead and put this second handle slab back on. Yep, we have oil on top of that bronze washer. This might be a little bit finicky, which it normally is on any knife. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. That is nice. Alright, go ahead and get that pivot screw back in there. And before I get him all the way back in there and wipe him off a little bit more. Oh gosh. I'm going to go ahead and cinch it down all the way, even though I will have to loosen that back up when I go to... I'll have to adjust it once it's fully assembled, so yeah, that's fine. And go ahead and put the screws back in. We're going to work from the front back this time. No particular reason, just... This knife still doesn't look extremely clean, just because it's difficult to get dirt out of the peel applied G10. It's clean on the inside, which is what matters. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and put the clip back on. I will actually have to go back and look to see what side it was on. Actually, no, I know. It was set up for right-hand carry, so I'm going to go ahead and set it back up for right-hand carry. I'm not going to close it yet. I'm just going to wait until the clip is on before I try any sort of adjustment, because I have a feeling I'm going to need the clip to get a good grip on this thing. Let's go ahead and put this thing back over, and yeah, that's really way too tight, which is fine. Let's go ahead and get that thing adjusted out. I want this to be, I don't want it to be so loose that it's dangerous, that it becomes a finger guillotine, but I do want it to be loose enough to be smooth operating, which is not this yet. That's pretty stiff. Okay, so this is interesting, and this is probably something to do with that, with the way that, with the double screw thing here. Let's see here what's going on. I'm curious to see what I violated in here. Okay, so there's some sort of binding there. Alright. Let's see if I can diagnose this without having to take it back apart. I'm going to have to take it back apart anyway because this isn't going to fix itself. But I want to see what I got wrong. Huh. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take it back apart. This is a good learning experience. So that I've now just demonstrated one incorrect way to disassemble the cold steel Espada XL. So yeah, let's just get back into it here. I'm gonna go, yeah, this was the way I went. And this should be actually pretty fast to just take this front scale off here. This should only take a moment to get this figured out and fixed. Okay, so let's see what mistake I made here. So, knife swings open. Okay, we're actually going to need to take off this plate to do a proper diagnosis here. It's under a lot of tension for whatever reason. I mean, it's a lock, so it's going to be under tension, but it's like under a little more tension than it was, I feel. Alright, so let's see what's happening here when this thing goes to open. Okay, so I think it is exactly as I thought. Yes. Okay. So it's not exactly what I thought, but I know what I did. I actually got the stop pin and the lock pivot pin reversed. So basically, this pin is too big, so it's not allowing the blade to come far enough back for the lock to engage, and this pin is too small, so it's just sort of wobbling around in there, and it's not getting a very good lockup. So this is literally a couple second fix. Pop this pin out, which I'm probably going to have to push it out from the other side because it was sort of a click fit to get it in there. So let's push this out here, just like that. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and take the blade out just to make getting the lock bar out easier. Alright, and then take the lock bar out, switch out these pins. There we go. So that is the mistake I made. A small mistake, but a, well, I don't even know if I would call that a small mistake. A very consequential mistake. So yeah, I'm going to go and put this thing back together the proper way this time. Oh, that's weird. There we go. Alright. Once more. And let's make sure, yep, that lock will engage. Perfect. Alright, let's get this thing back together. I probably should have tested that first to make sure that it worked before I put the thing back together, but ultimately not a huge deal to fix. So. Make sure this clicks all the way down. Yep, perfect. And make sure this clicks all the way down. Nope. And all of our washers are still in there. They just stuck to various places, but they are all still in there where they need to be. This is always a bit of a pain to get this pivot to line up correctly. Oop, I'm actually going to get this on you before I mess this up. There we go. Pivot screw keeps wanting to come out on me, and I can't lay it flat on the table because I still have the pocket clip on there, so I'm just gonna have to finagle with it for a minute, and this should do it, what I just did here. There we go, perfect. All right, so got that boy back in there. Okay, let's get this pivot back in. So, when you are reassembling your cold steel Espada XL, make sure not to mix up the stop pin and the lock pivot pin, because they have the same size fitting here, but the actual diameter of the pivot part is much different. So do not make that mistake, or else you'll just have to take it apart and put it back together again, which is not a huge deal, but it's never a super comforting thought when you put a knife back together and you think you're done, and then it doesn't open right, and you're like, what did I do wrong? And most of the time, it is just that simple. Most of the time, you just swapped two parts that you thought were the same, but were actually very different, and all you have to do is take it apart and put it back together. So, alright, so now, this thing should be totally fine. Yes, it's very fine. Alright, we'll go ahead and adjust this pivot out. It's going to be difficult for me to action this sitting here at this table, but I'm going to try. Yeah, this thing is massive, and you kind of have to be, it's kind of better to be standing to open it, but yeah, that's pretty good for the action. I'm actually going to back it out just a little bit more. I don't want it to be too loose, because then it becomes a little bit sketchy. But that's pretty good right there. So yeah, it's definitely smoother than it was. Yeah, so this has been the full disassembly, cleaning, botched reassembly, and then correct reassembly of the cold steel Espada XL. I hope you enjoyed my video. Also check out my overview of this knife. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day.